Happy May 8th, Truth Seekers. This is episode 116 of Life, Liberty, and Hines. With me, Brian Hines, your host. I sometimes self-identify as a journalist. But what I'm doing here is fighting fake news, pretty much. False information, misinformation, and even disinformation. Kind of a half hour of news, but is it news? Only if you prefer to use the terminology news as it is. So the first bit of information today. See, Trump signing all these executive orders. Most of them seem like they're all pretty good and stuff, but it's an executive order. How far will it go? Well, Trump signed an executive order to end taxpayer funding of NPR and PBS. And those are liberal government paid, tax dollar paid, fake news organizations, NPR, PBS. And they also have like Sesame Street and stuff like that, which is promoting like rainbow flags and stuff, if you know what I mean. So none of that's really any good. And our taxpayers are paying for it. Our tax dollars. And being Trump signed an executive order to end funding of NPR and PBS, how far is that going to go? Well, it ended up making it to the GOP. And the GOP canceled votes on USAID and NPR and PBS. The defunding of these. The GOP just canceled votes. So, Trump can sign a whole bunch of executive orders, but if they don't get passed into law, then they're a waste of paper. How come Hussein Obama can pass a law that allows, at the time, mainstream media, news outlets to lie, which are now called fake news? But if Hussein Obama can get something through that allows them to lie, then how come we can't pass one to stop the lying of fake news? Go back to normal news, real news. The circle is so deep. You got the media, that's the people we see. And like Hollywood, we see them too. And they're all probably up to no good. But in the meantime, they are covering. They're basically smoke curtains, blocking the way of seeing the next layer of criminals. Which I guess you'd work your way through politicians, and then corporate elites, and then the global elites. How far do they go? There's so many questions. Like, how far do they go with lying? I don't know. Because I remember learning that the Titanic hit an iceberg. And lo and behold, recently, last couple years, I heard more about the Titanic being hit with a missile. So, who would have hit the Titanic with a missile, and why? And it revolves around the Fed. And it's a pretty big story. So, not only was the Titanic not the Titanic, and it didn't hit an iceberg, but the people aboard had to do with the Fed. Now, If that's true, the missile story, then what do you think of the recent MH370 airplane crash, allegedly? The crash that they never found any plane parts for. Sort of like the ones that hit the Twin Towers. Like a lot of these things are like connected somewhere else. But anyway, we got to get back to the MH370. Was there something on that plane that they wanted to go on? Allegedly, there were like 7 or 9 or 13 scientists on that thing. Good scientists, bad scientists. Did they crash the plane? Or did they just land it somewhere else and kidnap the scientists? We don't know because we don't have no plane parts. So, back to the executive order. So, Trump signs an executive order to stop funding NPR and PBS, and the GOP quietly cancels the votes for such executive order. Are we getting anywhere? I don't think so. Um, Another university gets hit. Trump wants to take Harvard's uh, tax exempt status. I believe the article said Harvard loses its tax exempt status. But like I just said with the previous, um, Trump can say something, and like the next department doesn't abide by it. Sort of like Democrats. They write laws like you can't abuse children, and then they go and abuse children. It's just insane. They break their own laws. So anyway, so like I said, the article said Harvard loses tax exempt status. Did they really lose it? Or is this just another executive order that is probably never going to get passed? So Harvard is going to continue to have tax exempt status. Because I'll tell you what, that would be millions of dollars in revenue. Because a lot of money goes through Harvard. So if they tax them, they can tax us less. But there'll be less people going to that place real soon. Don't worry. Everybody doesn't need to be over indoctrinated. You get enough of that while you're in public school. We're going to move on. I wrote here we have proof Fauci lied about the labs that were torturing animals. Oh, yeah, the beagles that were getting their faces eaten off by flies and stuff. They would cut the vocal cords so they wouldn't cry, which they were still crying, and you just couldn't hear it. So our tax dollars were funding animal abuse. What country? Tin somewhere over, I don't know. But it's easy to find. I believe I repost everything on True Social. You can follow me on True Social. But I believe I repost pretty much everything in today's news on one of my 3 social medias, True Social, Getter, or Instagram. But anyway, our tax dollars are paying for the torturing of animals around the world. Can't do it here because they get caught. So they do it in all kinds of other places around the world. Tanzania, I believe it said. Torturing animals with flies. And who knows how many other ways. We might find out. Because it wasn't just that particular laboratory. Uh, check this out. Pediatricians get large bonuses if they vaccinate over 80% of children. Large bonuses. And that would, large bonuses, that would mean from uh, the vaccination uh, suppliers. So, pediatricians, you think are doing good for your children, and all they're worried about is money. So, as long as they vaccinate over 80%, which is a high percentage, it could be 50% to get bonuses. No. That way, they work harder and get more children vaccinated. So, pediatricians, large bonuses, big pharma. Meanwhile, medical schools are controlled by pharmaceutical companies also. So, if you train your pediatricians to be stupid, evil, unaware of how dangerous these vaccines are, then they're going to have no problem giving them out and receiving their bonuses. And once they've done it once or twice, you know, like even if you do kind of find out that, oh no, these vaccines might be bad, well, you know what that does? It makes the kids come back more often because now they're sick with something, which goes back to the greed and pediatricians getting their large bonuses. I talked about how CEOs of uh, drug companies were prior employees of the government, like the FDA and stuff. Well, pediatricians, they're on that list too. Well, we move on to JFK Jr. is bringing the truth about chemtrails. Conspiracy theory. Remember chemtrails? Conspiracy theory. I think I posted it as a comment earlier today. I'm starting to believe that everything that the left, the Democrats, the whoever, whatever name you want to put on them, whatever they called the news outlets, whatever they called a conspiracy theory, is somewhat possibly coming true. Like the Titanic being sunk by something other than an iceberg was a conspiracy theory. JFK being assassinated by the CIA, conspiracy theory. Chemtrails, conspiracy theory. Well, RFK Jr. is talking about it now. And he's thinking about making it like a crime. Because somehow dropping metal particulates into the air and probably harming people. I mean, they've already done tests, they know. But I ain't seen a test. So, other than causing stupid weather, probably harming people with these metal particulates because we're breathing them in. They're going in our skin. So, these people dropping these chemtrails apparently aren't already committing a crime according to the Constitution, which I think they are. But being the government doesn't think they are, RFK is thinking about coming up with a law that it's illegal to do the chemtrail thing. Drop metal particulates into our skies. Could be one of the stupid things that's causing all this cancer, these turbo cancers. I mean, what else are they dropping in the sky with this stuff? It's probably not just to manipulate weather. Go RFK. We just don't have a Congress that'll make it into law. The Pope really didn't care to talk about this, but it's kind of important because are they going to pick a similar Pope to the last ones? I believe I said that last week. Is Trump joking around about being the Pope? Is he really joking around? Because this guy does all kinds of stuff. But maybe they should just not have another Pope at all. What did he do? So it's all about who do they choose? Are any of them any good? We don't know. We don't study the Cardinals. So we're going to have to wait until they pick one and then see what kind of history he has. But for now, I guess the black smoke still comes out of the chimney as they're whatever they're doing. We got to move on. I guess they're trying to pass some kind of an economic bill, a budget of sorts. Keep seeing something about it. I didn't think it was budget time, but whatever. We might be riding on a continuing resolution right now. So, if Congress doesn't pass a bill with tax cuts as supposed to be on it, the no tips taxed and no social security tax, a bunch of pretty good stuff. If they don't pass it, then they're still going to be collecting taxes, and we're going to just have another continuing resolution, which a continuing resolution is just another Democrat spending bill, because that's all we're riding on is a Democrat spending bill. I don't think Congress is going to pass this year budget. So then, we got a note all the way down here. It has to do with it. Fake news is using Bernie Sanders recently. And Bernie Sanders' job is to fight back against the bill that Congress is allegedly trying to pass on the Trump economy / tax cuts / maybe even some tariffs. Bernie Sanders. The only way he got rich was being paid off by his own party to shut his pile. And now fake news is using him as a economy expert. It's not looking good. Congress is pathetic. Now we got Josh Hawley out there doing some rhino crap and not passing. We expect people like Murkowski. But now Josh Hawley. And Paul Ryan recently. Last couple weeks or votes or Paul Ryan. Flopping. Anyway. We gotta move on. Trump considering reopening Alcatraz. Alcatraz has been closed for a long time. It's going to cost millions of dollars to make that ready for prisoners. I mean, you can just put them out there because you ain't swimming back. The one movie I should tell you that. But Alcatraz doesn't need to be reopened for corrupt judges to go make stupid decisions about what to do with illegal immigrant gang members. Because all they're going to do is release them back into the country. So why would you spend millions of dollars fixing Alcatraz to get that kind of response. It's got to be a different way. We don't need to reopen Alcatraz. I think they have like parts of it open for like tourists and stuff. But other than that, it's not suitable to hold prisoners or judges. Supposedly nobody will swim out of it. But we got better raincoats these days. And glues than that last attempt. Anyway. The American farmer seems to be in favor of a lot of the Trump tariffs, of course, on agricultural products. 70% of American farmers. That's great. And even though a lot of our farms are owned by corporate farm, like Monsantos and such, we still have some American farmers out there. And they're in favor of tariffs because tariffs make sense. And common sense is what you use on a farm. Or you're probably going to lose a limb or something. And we keep moving on down here to chairman of the USA Fencing is a liberal plant that hates women. Got the name? No. But like I said, I reposted it. Go check it out. Chairman of USA Fencing thinks that biological men should be competing against women. Dude's nuts. For some reason, hates women. Yep, that's the chairman of USA Fencing. Just another libtard. Possibly we can call a degenerate. Check this out. The House voted 424 to 0, passing H.R. 1228, Prioritizing Veteran Survivors Act, which is reversing a 2020-21 action by Creepy Joe. I mean, the auto pen. Because it's looking like nothing was done by nothing other than an auto pen for those 4 years. So, whatever it was, could have been illegitimate for multiple reasons. But the Prioritizing Veteran Survivors Act is going to be utilizing some money that the Creepy Joe administration was spending on illegal immigrants for 4 years. 424 to 0. That's crazy. That doesn't happen too often. O'Keefe Media released video exposing Prince Andrew being a pedophile. Oh, yeah. A couple weeks ago, I talked about Queen Elizabeth being responsible for some missing children or something. Like, a pretty large number of them. And the royal family is possibly a group of really bad people. I mean, the stories out there about, I think it was Anthony Weiner's laptop. The major story on that is there were multiple FBI agents that seen it, and shortly thereafter, there were less FBI agents. But it was a pretty disturbing video, they say. Will we ever see it? I don't think I want to see it. I just want to know if it's true. Of Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin doing some really bad stuff to some adolescent tied to a tree. I hope it's not true. But if it is, How do we get justice out of this? But if Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin can do something like that, like, who would make up a story about something like that? But anyway, if they can do that, then there's a pretty good chance that Prince Andrew is also a pedophile and might do similar stuff. But O'Keefe Media, they got the information and they releasing it. So worldwide, we're finding out that the elite, the politicians worldwide, are all a bunch of pedophiles. Meanwhile, back in the day, they used to tell us news where there was a school in Africa that was raided by Hamas and all the children were stolen. I don't think it was Hamas at all. I think it might have been Prince Andrew sending a team out there to get himself some kids. Or Hillary Clinton. Like I said, I hope it's all fake. I hope it ain't true. But there's so much evidence out there. Like O'Keefe releasing the video. You can't say it's not true anymore. So, when is the justice going to start? Last week I talked about 81 judges' names being referred to the DOJ. Well, where do you go with them? Because all the judges are corrupt. You got to go in front of a judge to convict someone. So you go in front of a judge about a corrupt judge. Where do you think you're going to go with that? Snowball keeps getting bigger. And until then, I got to go. Have a wonderful week.